Meet Mr. Richard Smith, a mild-mannered fellow who is a beloved resident of St. John, Kansas. He takes pictures of people, pictures of games, special events, town happenings, proms and graduations, daily life in St. John. For nearly 6 decades, Mr. Smith has been a part of our community.
I started typically, like most people do, when my kid's out there, I'm taking their picture, click, 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 click. And then one day, something up here clicked, and I thought, why don't I take everybody instead of just my kids? Mm-hmm. Typically, most people just take pictures of their own kids. And if they happen to get the neighbor's kid in there, then the neighbor appreciates it. But I started several years ago, I take pictures of everybody. Even walking down the street, I'll ask people, may I take your picture? And they'll say, why? And I say, because I can if you let me. And you know, they don't understand that I just take pictures of everybody.
He is particular about his brand of cameras, and he takes encouragement from the people who have come to depend on him for capturing the special moments of a town's history. Are you a Nikon, Canon?
Canon.
And so, for at least 3 decades now,
Yeah.
you have chronicled many of the events in St. John.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you notice as you take these photos? I mean, they're always very good.
Well, most people now consider themselves photographers because of their cell phone. And it's so easy to whip out your cell phone and to do a video. So it's not such a unique thing anymore. Everybody does it. I might also say a great benefit to me was when whatever his name is came up with Facebook, because I used to try at ball games especially take 4 or 5 pictures of each kid, print them off and give them to them at the next game, because then you had to wait on the film to be developed and printed and so forth. And that got to where, okay, now who did I take last game? I forgot. And so Facebook, they're all right there for the taking. If someone sees one they want, they're welcome to it. You know, a lot of people say, may I use some of your pictures? And I say, of course. That's why I take them. But Facebook is a really great innovation for my photography. It helps me spread it out so a lot of people can see it, and they all have access to it.
What's your favorite?
My favorite still goes back to sports. End of each season is the state, state whatever, state football, state volleyball, state basketball. Mm-hmm. Those are big to me, because the kids have worked hard to get to that point, and so I want to be there and help them make memories at the state tournament or whatever. So, which hasn't happened for a few years now, but that's the way things run in cycles.
Mr. Smith moved to St. John in the fall of 1967, a time when our nation was torn apart from conflicts in Vietnam and race riots. Elvis Presley had just married Priscilla, and O.J. Simpson was a running back for the University of Southern California. A young Mr. Smith had heard from his cousins, Jerry and Marilyn Lee, that St. John had openings for teachers. Kansas offered better salaries for teachers than Oklahoma, and the Smiths were eager to move to St. John.
We loaded our family up in a bobtail truck and moved. We were 5 miles north of our hometown, and the mattress blew out of the truck. That was not good. Anyway, I made 3 trips that day. 2 in the truck, and then 1 to go back and get my personal pickup to come back. So it's quite a memorable moving day for us. Our main motive, I had been teaching 2 years in Oklahoma. our main motive was Kansas paid teachers a little bit better salary, and that was one of the main motives. Plus, coming up here where there was someone that we knew was another motive, and that's how we got here.
Why St. John?
The wide street. When you get north of the square, the street is extremely wide, right down this way. And that just impressed me. And the square, of course, was very impressive. I'd never seen a town square. Farm, rural people are outgoing, friendly, always willing to help you out.
He soon became friends with some of the other teachers in St. John, all legends in their own right.
Well, Mr. Hood loved to perform. And if there was an assembly or something at school, he wanted me to do something with him. He did a mad scientist one year, then I was Igor. Very, very fitting. Back during the years, Omar Norton got started with faculty program, faculty plays. You know, we started off with, probably the first big one was the Jungle Book, and Jim Hood was in that, very, very prominent character in that play, school play. But we actually started that to raise money for a faculty scholarship, so that we didn't have to divvy up out of our own pocket. We just used the proceeds, and we did several plays when Omar was in charge. The Jungle Book, Sleeping Beauty, Cinderella, and I'm sure there were one or two others, but they were big productions. We rehearsed and rehearsed and rehearsed. We had music, there were musicals. I mean, they weren't just plays, they were musicals. It just seemed to work really well. Highlights were the general demeanor of the people at school. They were interested in educating kids and not necessarily entertaining kids. Some of the people that I worked with, Jim Hood, you know him well, or knew him well. Omar Norton was another big name. Keith Blyde, Marlon Atkinson, big names in education in St. John. Ron Burgess is another one. And I'm sure I'll come up with others, but I liked it.
Now in their 60s, many of Mr. Smith's former students always still call him Mr. Smith. One of the things I'm curious to ask you is, have our manners changed?
Very much.
How so?
Not only manners, but using things that you were taught in school. For instance, when you text, and I'm sure you text, do you spell out the word A-R-E, or do you use the letter R?
I'm a journalist,
Okay.
Mr. Smith. Yes, I do. I'm
So-
old school.
I blame texting for a lot of things like that. You know, like IDK. You're supposed to know what that means.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But I know IDK is I don't know.
I know.
And things like that that everyone is supposed to know, don't always know them. And why should they know them?
And we talked a little bit about this before, but I refer to you as Mr. Smith. I cannot possibly think of you as anybody but Mr. Smith.
Well, thank
It
you.
would kill me to say Dick or Richard.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I have a high school English teacher that is still living in my hometown, and she will always be Mrs. Burns.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I feel the same way. It's a respect. You knew me when I was a teacher. A lot of A lot of kids today don't. And so therefore they don't know who Mr. Smith is. Mr. Smith is my son that teaches in the elementary school right now. And sometimes when I'm over there and one of his students says, Mr. Smith, I also turn around and there's two of us that turn around and look. So I agree with that. It's not too well accepted in today's world.
As he was raising his own family in his spare time, he and some of those teachers created a band, the Breakaways, with a Z. And did you sing?
I did.
What was your favorite song?
Of all time, probably Proud Mary.
Oh, do we get to hear a few bars of it?
No.
Why?
Because in my latter years, my voice has changed. I can't get up as high as I used to. My voice cracks out.
Oh.
You know, it's just part of an aging thing, but I don't sing much anymore, just to my grandkids.
As the years went by, St. John grew on him. And now it is home. So what does this town mean to you?
It's home. It's home. I'm still an Okie here. I grew up in Oklahoma, but I've lived here much longer than I lived in Oklahoma. I have two of my granddaughters have moved to St. John. They're in town with us. My son lives here. Another daughter lives in Hayes, and one in Nickerson. And then my farthest child is my son Rick, and he lives in Manhattan, and that's not all that far. So my whole family is kind of
They're
right here.
Kansans now.
Yeah. And from my backyard, I can look across and I can see the cemetery. And I'm thinking, I'm going to be over there someday, but I can still look around.
Thank you, Mr. Smith, for documenting and keeping our memories.